All right, y'all. We are back. We are back yet again. We are locked and loaded for another very special edition of the Run the Jewelz podcast show and vidcast series. I'm your host, Julian Smartrimple here. We are literally winding down our season 4 episodes. And so if you are just tracking with us for the first time, I'm your humbled host, Julian Smartrimple, King Jules. And this is the RTJ show. The RTJ lifestyle show was created to spread inspiration to young professionals and millennial entrepreneurs who want to learn wisdom on how to shine brighter in their careers or their businesses. And so if you are a millennial, if you are a Gen Zer, or even if you are a baby boomer, we still have love for the baby boomers. We welcome you to the RTJ show and vidcast live experience. But if you are interested in being a future guest on the RTJ show, please make sure that you click the link that we're putting in the comment section below, and you'll be able to have our team look through your application and see if you have what it takes, if you have a powerful message, if you are an entrepreneur that is a king or a queen that is doing their thing and killing it in their industry or in the marketplace. We'll see if you have what it takes. And we appreciate all of our shining VIP jewels that have been a part of the RTJ show this season. Thank you so much. We could not have made this show a success without you. Also, you can listen to us on all podcast streaming platforms or any music streaming platform. Just search for the Run the Jewelz podcast show, and you'll see our cover art, and you can listen to our episodes all the way from season 1 now to season 4, you all. And so we're literally in our 4th season. We've been putting in a lot of work, a lot of hard dedication and discipline to this craft. And so go and track with us to see our progress from season 1 to season 4. And last but not least, we are an interactive podcast show. And so if you have any questions at any time of today's interview session, feel free to list them in the comment section below, and we'll make sure that myself and my guests that we get to it as soon as possible, you all. And thank you again to all of our wisdom listeners. I'm just trying to make sure we have our wisdom listeners that we could show love to ready to go. Wisdom is an app similar to Clubhouse, and we literally allow our wisdom listeners to get exclusive behind the scenes access to our guests. And so if you want to be one of our wisdom listeners or have exclusive access, you can sign up for our Patreon account to become a Patreon subscriber to the RTJ show. But without further ado, this is episode How to Defeat Financial Imposter Syndrome in 7 Steps that we are about to embark on with my very special guest. Mr. Eric McLoyd is the creator and co-host of the Money, Sex, Gen X podcast. He is a proud Black Gen Xer who wants to see more accurate portrayals of himself in the media. Though Eric is well educated by traditional standards, earning his Series 65 investment advisory license and various other degrees and certifications, he feels that his best education came from helping to launch multiple for-profit and nonprofit startups. And so he's definitely going to be talking to us about his journey in the financial coaching and consulting space, you all. In 2018, he also launched his own company, Hubris Global Wealth Management, to support 6-figure earners interested in building and sustaining generational wealth. And so we're going to be definitely having him dive into the importance of generational wealth. If you're someone that is looking to build up a legacy for your family and your children's children, you're in the right place for today's episode. And so definitely rock with us and comment, and also ask any questions you may have for my very special guest, Mr. Eric McLoyd, who is talking to us about how to defeat financial imposter syndrome in 7 steps. And so let me bring my VIP guest to the stage so you all can meet Mr. Eric McLoyd. Eric, how you doing today, King?
I'm doing good. Peace. Thank you for having me on today. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Absolutely. We appreciate you coming on to rock with us for our interview today, where we usually allow Eric, our guest, to talk about when they first come on, to introduce themselves to those who may not know you, but they need to know you after today. Let us know, Eric, where you're originally from, your hometown, where you're checking in from today, and also why is this an important subject for you to talk to us about today?
Okay. Eric McLoyd. I go by the moniker Your CFO. Some people call me E-Money. It's a pleasure to be here today. I am originally from Chicago, Illinois. I'm actually still living in that area, in the North Shore area. But I spent a lot of time in the DMV area, specifically an area of VA called Tidewater. I noticed, Julian, you have the Hampton University shirt on. Spent a lot of time at HU, also Norfolk State. And I am a financial coach and also what they call a fractional CFO. So in the coaching space, I've decided to focus on six-figure earners because a lot of people who have high salaries, unfortunately, are still kind of struggling with what to do with the money that they're making. And then on the fractional CFO side, I work with people who have startups to build out their infrastructure. A lot of times what that looks like is business planning and then also creating programs and services that will drive revenue into the company.
I love it. I love it. We definitely talk a lot about finances and especially debt freedom, as I like to call it, on our podcast show. It's all about financial wealth and generational wealth. And so for those that are just tuning in, we're with my very special guest. I forgot to mention the correct pronunciation of his last name, Eric McLoyd, not Mick Lloyd. So make sure you call him Big Mac, Big E over here. Definitely when you out here in the streets, but definitely he's going to be dropping some heavy jewels with us on how to defeat financial imposter syndrome in 7 steps. And so, Eric, let's start from the beginning, King. Like, how did you get into wanting to learn about financial education? Did you have a family that you came from good stock and good soil that taught you good financial management or good financial smart jewels, as we like to call it, earlier on in life? Or did you learn it when you were older as an adult? Like, how did you get into financial education?
I wish I could say I came from good financial stock. I came from good stock, but we didn't have the financial piece, unfortunately. I'll tell a quick story of how I got into finance or what kind of got me interested. I was a paralegal at the time in a real estate firm, large firm, and I was sitting in a bathroom stall handling my business, and I had just finished getting a finance degree. So I was feeling really good. You know, I just finished getting the degree. I felt like I had a pretty good handle on finance. And so I'm sitting in this stall. And then as I'm sitting in the stall, a group of gentlemen walked in. It was probably about 4 or 5 of them from another culture. So they definitely did not look like me. They didn't know I was in there. And they came in, I guess they were buddies. I didn't really know them that well at the firm. And so they started having this conversation about annuities, cash value life insurance, transferring ownership in different trusts. They were talking about real estate trusts and things of that nature. And as I'm listening to them talk, I was intrigued, but Julian, I got this sense of embarrassment because I'm hearing them use these terms and they're saying equity and bonds and all these different things, and they're saying it very casually. And I was embarrassed because I had enough sense to know, like, I just got a finance degree. I should be able to follow this conversation, but I don't understand really much of it at all. And so I'm sitting there and I dropped my head and I'm like, this is really crazy. This is embarrassing. So they finished up their conversation. They walk out. And that moment changed my entire life because that embarrassment that I had, I felt so ashamed that I decided in that moment that I would dedicate my entire life to making sure that people who look like me specifically would never have to feel that type of shame or feel actually ignorant in those moments when it came to finance. And that's what started me down the road of getting into the financial industry.
Man, I love that story, because we all have to be humble, especially as kings, too. And I know you said you came from the Tidewater area. Shout out to the 757, especially for those who are in the 757. That's a humbling act of any one of us men and kings, to know that we don't have it all together, or we don't have even the financial acumen or the education. So we have to be able to be willing to learn from others that do. And so, like, stay with that point right there too, Mr. Eric. Like, how did you get thrust into that, especially knowing that some of your peers and even family members may have not taken the time to really break down what does it mean to have a savings, emergency savings? What does it mean to have 401k retirement planning or estate planning? Like, how did you get motivated to stay the course and not get distracted by others around you who may not have had that information?
Great question. I definitely am a person who kind of prides myself on being different. So the people around me were very strong, but like you're saying, they just weren't strong in finance. And so what part of what helped me stay the course was like being in this unique space where I felt like I could master something that most of the people around me didn't know. Now, I didn't want to know it just to say, hey, I want to know it. You know, I'm not going to tell anybody. I wanted to learn it so I could come back and teach the people around me, which I did. But I started out like a lot of people. I was reading the Robert Kiyosaki books. You know, I was, that was, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book definitely was a game changer for me, because it just opened my mind up. The Richest Man in Babylon, all these different books that many people read, I just kept reading. And then I said, okay, I'm reading these books. I kind of understand what's going on, but it's still not enough. Now, I made the mistake of going to business school. I shouldn't say it's a mistake, but I decided to go to business school because I thought that was the remedy for my sickness at the time. I thought, okay, if I go to business school and study finance, I'll be good. And so I did that. And so I'm in there, I'm doing the courses, and actually did learn a lot. But what I walked away understanding, Julian, was the MBA program traditionally, I know they're a little bit different now, they weren't designed to teach you how to be an entrepreneur or how to build generational wealth. So we hear the term generational wealth a lot now, but at that time, I wasn't aware of the concepts. But in my head, I knew there was something that I needed to do for my family and the people around me. And so I got the MBA, and then I realized that it wasn't what I needed. And so anyway, I was working at another firm, and a friend of mine approached me one day, and he was like, hey, we're about to do this project in Inglewood in Chicago, and we would like for you to be a part of it. It's a community development corporation. Now I'm sitting there and I'm like, why would they want me to be a part of it? I mean, not that I didn't think I could maybe add some value, but I didn't know anything about that space. I didn't know anything about economic development, and I didn't know really why they would want me. But anyway, I went to the meeting, and I ended up being intrigued because I saw finance on a totally different level from a community perspective, using funds to get buildings built, using funds to get parks built. And I'm looking behind the scenes to see like what conversations actually lead to some of these things being built. I was involved in conversations about shopping centers coming into the community and things of that nature. But while I was part of that experience, one day, one of the board members, I ended up serving on the board, one of the board members said, hey, you know what? I think you would be good to come into the financial industry. And I was like, really? And I think it was because at the time I was the treasurer on the board of directors, I guess. So she was like, I want to invite you to come to this convention in Las Vegas and see what you think. So at that time, I was still understanding, like, I don't have what I need. Maybe I should just go out here and see what's going on. Best decision I ever made in my life. Now, the convention was like one of these sort of MLM structured financial services companies. And I know they kind of have this stigma sometimes of not being quality, but I had to kind of look past that, because what I did get, Julian, was this vision of how to become a couple of things that I wanted to become: a leader, a person that was in the financial industry, and somebody who could build and manage a team. And so and get out of corporate, I should say a fourth thing, a path to get out of corporate. So I go out there and my mind was completely blown. And I remember walking out of the convention that day, and I was walking down the strip, and I called my dad and I said, "Dad, I finally found what I was looking for." And he was like, "Really?" And I explained it all to him, but I just had this sense, Julian, of peace. I'm like, I'm in the right place now. So I did that. And so I started selling insurance. Now, what the insurance did was it helped me to start getting in front of people and understanding what unique problems they were having. Most of the people that I initially got in front of were friends and family. And then I eventually expanded out to what they call a cold market, or people that I didn't know. Now, during that time, I'm helping with insurance, but I started thinking, I'm like, these people need help with more than just insurance. And so I started trying to figure out, okay, can I learn about investing? Can I learn about helping people with retirement, financial planning, all this stuff? Like, my mind is going in a million different directions. So I ended up building a team, and we had great success. I actually emerged as a leader over time. Took a while, but the platform was really good at focusing more on leadership and entrepreneurship, and then kind of the products and services were on the back end. And so I went through that process, and at the end of it, I said to myself, I talked to so many people, I started to see a pattern emerge of people with high incomes almost being in a worse position than people who had lower incomes. And at a certain point, I decided I want to focus specifically on six-figure earners, many of them who look like myself, highly educated by traditional standards and all of that stuff, but they're not educated as it relates to finance. I feel like I can relate to them. And so I went down that path of coaching.
Man, I love that intro, especially into the financial space, and shout out to the MLMs too. I know that even was one of the ways that I started learning more about how to structure a company, and even, like you said, how to sell. A lot of individuals, even to your point, they don't know how to sell, but they want to be entrepreneurs or be business owners. And that's one of the first key things in any MLM, that they're going to teach you the training and the basics of how to do direct selling. And so shout out again to all the MLMs. But Mr. Eric, we're going to take a quick commercial break to let you catch your breath for a second while we highlight our VIP sponsor for today. Each and every episode, we highlight a VIP sponsor that we showcase, or an affiliate partner that we showcase for each of our episodes. And so if you're interested in having your business, your brand, or even your product or service advertised on our international podcast show, feel free to hit the link that we're putting in the comment section below to be able to sign up and receive our packages to be a potential VIP sponsor. But today's sponsor comes from our affiliate partner, who we're actually using today. You all, the internet is a little glitchy, but we're still keeping it rolling over here. But StreamYard is an official streaming platform that you can use for podcasts. You can use it for if you're a Twitch gamer, if you're a YouTube creative or creator, even if you're just trying to go live stream. They're very diverse with their opportunities and their structure that they have for their platform. And so StreamYard is our affiliate partner, and also is going to be our VIP affiliate partner that we're highlighting today. You can receive $10 off by signing up today with our discounted pricing in our packages that we even paid into StreamYard, the platform that we're using, and you can receive a $10 off head start to start your StreamYard experience today by clicking the link that we're putting in the comment section below. And their official logo and mascot is Puddles, the duck that y'all see on the animation across the screen. And so shout out to StreamYard, who is our affiliate partner, VIP affiliate today. And so let's go back to you, Eric. Let's start from, when did you get to the mindset of wanting to help our people? Because a lot of individuals I know, Eric, that work in the finance industry or even in financial consulting, they are of course helping high earners, and especially helping a lot of business owners, but they may not look like with myself and you with the melanin. And so, like, how did you get into the mindset of wanting to help not just high earners, but even helping Black and brown people, and also individuals of color? Like, how did you get into that mindset?
Yeah, I love that question. I could definitely give you that. I was fortunate enough to get knowledge of self when I was a younger man in my early 20s, and so that's just something that has to happen. Whenever I obtain knowledge, I have to give it back to the people who look like myself. That's just, so I'm always thinking about it from that perspective. Whatever. So even in the way that I learned the information, I have to understand it in a certain way. I always say, and I learned this when I got knowledge of self, that if you cannot explain something to a child in a way that a child can understand it, like a 4 or 5-year-old, then you don't really understand it. And so I would go the extra mile to make sure that I not only knew the information, but I had to apply it so I could understand it, and then be able to feed it back in a way where anyone could understand it. Now, I definitely didn't come, when I was in the financial industry early on, I wasn't necessarily saying I want all my clients to look like me, but I was thinking, I do see a problem here. I don't think I understood the extent of the issue as it relates to finance. I also see it as an opportunity, but I didn't realize the challenges were as significant as they were. Because I did not grow up in a corporate sort of setting, and my parents were not in corporate and all of that, I didn't really understand the things that people in corporate environments deal with, specifically with money. It could be simple things like, when you go in corporate, they always offer you a 401k. I came to realize that most people, especially those who look like us, they don't really understand what's happening with the 401k that they're contributing to. HSA, they have something called a health savings account that you're probably aware of. Many people have access to that, but they don't really understand it. FSA, flexible spending accounts, all these different things that are being offered in a corporate environment. People are making these high salaries and they're contributing to them, but they're definitely not understanding. And so as I kept seeing that pattern emerge over and over, I knew that I couldn't just focus on one piece. I had to focus on everything as a whole, to be able to truly help people build a legacy, build generational wealth, but more importantly, to get rid of the financial imposter syndrome. That feeling of uneasiness as it relates to money. Sometimes it shows up as I'm making good money, but I just feel like I'm going to do the wrong thing. Other times it shows up as I'm making all this money, but I really don't deserve it. All these different mental things that come into play that start impacting people as it relates to money. So I knew I had to prepare myself to be able to address all versus just having a singular focus like insurance.
Yeah. And especially when it comes to, just like you said, insurance. I know you're going to dive in to talk to us about the insurance piece, and especially estate planning, because a lot of people prior to COVID and even post-COVID, they were in for a rude awakening when it comes to making sure your estate is taken care of in the case of a family member, God forbid, of course, passing earlier than you expected. Whether it's even younger people nowadays are starting to transition sooner than even the elders in our community. And so talk to us, especially about the insurance field, Eric, like what are some of the basic principles that individuals, especially people of color that look like myself and you, need to know how to set up their insurance, and also how to set up their estate in order to have that generational wealth flow to the next generations?
Yes, definitely. So I will always say this: insurance is the sexiest vehicle in finance. It is the sexiest to me because it doesn't have that reputation, which you always hear about is real estate and stocks. And those are great. I leverage them, they're good. But insurance offers so many opportunities. And here's the one that I love the most, Julian. It is the best way to transfer generational wealth. because when you get a life insurance policy, say you get one for $500,000 and you have your beneficiary, say it's your brother and sister, and you pass away, they get their $500,000 tax-free. Tax-free. There's no other asset that you can pass that will not be subject to taxes. So I used to wonder, why are some of these other cultures, how do they get all of this money? I just couldn't understand it. But once I really understood insurance, and then I'm talking to some of these people, they have these $1 million policies, 2 million, 3 million. That is tax-free. So you've automatically created a generational wealth situation for your family just for having an insurance policy that you're paying maybe pennies on the dollar for. You know, say you're in your 30s or your late 20s and you get $1 million insurance policy. That is going to be super cheap. It might be $20, $30, $40 a month. But look at the economic impact that it's going to have if something happens to you, or if you run the natural course of your life and then you leave this money to your family. Insurance is one of the best generational wealth vehicles. Now, one of the questions that comes up about insurance that I wish people would talk about more is, well, how do I know how much insurance that I need? When I bought my first insurance policy, the guy just basically told me a number and I went with it because I didn't know any better. He really did me, and he probably thought he was a great insurance agent, but he did me a disservice because the number that he gave me was extremely low. I think it was $100,000, and I had a child and I had a wife at the time. So one of the things I learned in the MLM structure was, how do you calculate how much insurance you actually need? And there's a method that I want to share with the audience today. It's called the DIME method. And obviously you don't have to use this method. You might tweak it for your own benefit or whatever, but it's good to just know the structure. DIME: debt, income, mortgage, education. This is a formula to say, how much do I need in insurance to leave to my family? So with the debt piece, the D, you're calculating how much debt you have that you basically want to get rid of if something happens to you, so it's not a burden on your family. Income. Most people will say, hey, if I'm making $70,000 a year, I want to leave 10 times my salary to my family so that they have time to recuperate from the economic loss of me not being around anymore. So if you make $70,000 a year times 10, 700,000. You would add that on to the debt. Then you go to the mortgage. Mortgage, you're just basically saying, hey, we got this condo. It's $300,000. If I'm gone, I want my wife or my children to be able to pay this off in full. So you add that. And then the last piece is education. You have children, or if you have nieces and nephews, if you're not around, you might say, hey, you know what? I want to put $500,000 in play, or $250,000 or whatever the number is, so that these people in my family can go to college or go to trade school or whatever they want to do to further their education or their life. You add all of that together, and that's the amount of insurance that you need. The DIME method. Now, you might come up with a number like $2 million, and you're like, I can't afford $2 million worth of coverage. You probably can. You might need to start out with term insurance. People talk about term like it's bad. It's kind of like the renting versus buying real estate. You're renting a policy for a period of time, but it can be a great strategy because it could allow you to get to your true number until you make more money and you can afford the other version, which is a permanent policy. Permanent, it's just like buying a property. You build equity, there's cash value and all of that stuff. But you could use term as a bridge until you can afford the permanent policy. All of these things are definitely conducive to building generational wealth for your family, and it really is not that expensive. Now, the only time it could get expensive is in two main situations. One, when you kind of wait a long time to get the coverage, you definitely should try to get coverage as young as possible. Or if you have health conditions, you know, say you might have cancer or diabetes or one of these things, it makes it a little more difficult. It's not impossible, but that's another reason why you want to get the coverage as soon as possible. And it's not a bad idea to just get coverage on your children as soon as they're born. you know, like when they're born, they turn like 1 or whatever the threshold age that the insurance company has, just go ahead and cover them, because as long as you pay that premium, they'll have that insurance in place no matter what else happens. A great protection for your family and a great vehicle for generational wealth.
And stay with that point too, Eric. I know you're dropping a ton of jewels on the audience today. If y'all are just tuning in, you definitely need to go back and watch the replay. Mr. Eric McLoyd is definitely teaching us the importance of financial wealth and also generational wealth by following solid financial principles, especially when it comes to insurance. And so stay with that last point too, Eric. Why do you think a lot of people, especially in the financial space or even the common person that has no real financial education, why do you think they argue term insurance versus whole life insurance? Like, why do you think that's such a big debate, especially for people in the finance space and even those who may not have financial education? Like, what's the benefits of both?
You know, I feel like from my experience, a lot of these conversations are driven by the person's unique position in the industry. So for example, you might join a platform that's all they sell is term. Mm-hmm. So of course, if you're not in it for the culture, you're going to be like, yo, you need to get this term policy. Or maybe you just don't understand, right? Then you have platforms that all they sell is cash value. They don't even have a term option. And so I feel like from my experience, that's why you see a lot of that. It's like people are trying to make money. They think they're helping, but they're kind of just offering what's available to them. And then the last thing I'll say is, I feel like if you're in the financial industry, you have to kind of put yourself in a situation where you don't depend only on that income to live, because you end up compromising yourself. Like me, I deal a lot in real estate. I did that early on because I don't want to be talking to Julian about finance and recommending things that I know are not good for you because I need the commission. You know what I mean? I just have a problem with that, just because I have knowledge of self. I have a love for my people, and I just know how important this is. So I'm going to recommend what I actually think is the best, whether I have it to offer to you for a commission or not. And unfortunately, many people just aren't in that position. And so I think that's why you see the differences in the conversations.
Yeah, it's definitely an argument. I know whether you talk to the Robert Kiyosaki's, the Dave Ramsey's, of course, the Grant Cardones, a lot of them, they're going to be throwing up which side of the pendulum that they swing with, whether it's whole or term. And then I know for sure a lot of our audience are millennials or Gen Zers that may be taking care of a baby boomer, or they may be in the future taking care of an elderly parent or grandparent. Like, how are you recommending, especially for those parents or grandparents, family members that are elders that may be a little hard-headed, let's just say, and aren't trying to really sit down with their children or their grandchildren to have the money talk, to really make sure that their parents are set up for their estate, whether they own real estate, whether they own vehicles, whether they have 401ks, retirement planning. Like, what are some ways that you think people can overcome the stiff-necked or hard-headedness of the parents not wanting to disclose what assets they have or what insurance that they may already have before death, rather than scrounging around trying to get a GoFundMe account to pay for the funeral? Like, talk to people in a practical way. How can they avoid those type of issues?
Another thing that I went through, and another great question. I want to go back to something super quick that you said about the Robert Kiyosaki's and Susie Orman's and all that. A lot of those people are good. I just want to caution people to just remember that with finance, it's all about your unique situation. There's no one thing. There's no one size fits all. It's just like how you have the Hampton t-shirt on, right? They have multiple Hampton University t-shirts. That's the one that you selected for yourself. And it's the same thing with them. They're coming from their perspective, their audience. It doesn't mean that that's the absolute truth. It just means that might be the best thing for them or their audience. Now, as far as the advice to people who are dealing with parents, so I went through that with my father. he had accumulated some assets. And I think the thing, I was able to get through to him eventually, but here's what I think was the most effective thing. I had to get some credibility. So we know that our parents they're not trying to necessarily have those conversations with us just because their generation didn't do it. But I think I was able to get through to my father about getting an estate plan. It took 3 years. I had to keep saying it over and over, but the more educated I got about it, and the more that he saw me applying the information that I learned, he was able to open up over time. It did take a long time because he's looking at me like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So I had to be consistent, and I had to continue to apply these principles to my own life. And I think that's a good strategy for anybody out there that's trying to get through to your parents. Like, learn the information, but let them see you apply it. When you stop going to them borrowing money, and we all have borrowed money from our parents, or they having to come save us when we have this financial emergency, as that stuff starts to disappear, they start to wonder why. And you can say, hey, you know what? I've taken it upon myself to learn this information. I might have joined this platform. I got a mentor, and I'm dedicated to learning this. And they'll see that. And that's a way that you can get through to them.
Yeah, because it's a divide in a lot of households when it comes to the children. Even if they're adults, they're still looked at as children. And I hear that a lot, especially from working with couples and even singles through Financial Peace University and our camp that we also push debt freedom courses. Like, a lot of parents do not want to disclose what assets they have, or even how to really break down the payment of their debts in the case that they are needing to transition earlier than expected. And so that is a common conversation that a lot of millennials and Gen Zers have to be faced with, sometimes abruptly versus in advance. And so I'm glad you're letting others know how to ease their way in there by showing that you have sound financial education yourself. And so before we get ready to wind down shortly, Eric, for the final jewel, what type of imposter syndromes are you still seeing right now, especially with post-COVID? Things are opening, they're open back up for the most part, and people are trying to get back to a regular lifestyle of living. Like, what are some of the things that you see people doing, or the trends that people are starting to do now, more that the world is open to them again?
Yes, what I'm seeing. So most of the people that I'm working with are coaches. They're 6-figure or 7-figure coaches. And so we've all seen this transition, like you and I are doing this podcast virtually. And so many of those people are working in a virtual environment. And I feel like it's contributing to people's stress levels even more. It's convenient. And, I leverage technology as well, but I think psychologically it hurts us sometimes to be on technology so much. And I think that trickles down to people's finances. It's like they know that there's this app that they could use to track their budget, but they just are exhausted from being on technology. And so what I'm starting to see with a lot of people is just fatigue, and them feeling like they need an additional layer of support to kind of get to where they feel like they can go, because they're already a leader in their normal life. They may be coaching somebody for marketing or education or whatever. So they're already a leader, but they're starting to have this vision of themselves being a leader as it relates to their money or a desire. And so they want someone to hold them accountable. I see this as a trend. I have so many people who reach out and they like, I want to focus on mindset specifically, because they've already had a financial advisor. They've already had an insurance person and all these different accountants and all that. But the piece that gets lost, which is the primary piece, is the mentality, the mindset. And so I'm starting to see more people understand that they're like, I need to work on my mentality or my psychology as it relates to money. And then as people of color and Black people specifically, we have our own special needs, I would say, as it relates to the psychology, how we view money and our psychology as it relates to money. And so a lot of people, we'll listen to Dave Ramsey, for example. I love Dave Ramsey, but sometimes we also need a person that can get into like shared experiences that maybe just you and I can understand because we have a similar culture. And so I find people are looking for that more. And I do think technology helps in that way because it's easier to find those people online where they may not live in your community or be part of your circle already.
Yeah, that technology, especially before COVID happened, was not leaned on as much as I think it could have been, especially for remote services and remote coaching and consulting. And so now, like you said, it's a way of life. It's a normal thing that people have to use technology with their coaching and consulting in order to make themselves more available to their clients. And so what we definitely are out of time, Eric, but we always have to allow our guests to leave a final jewel of wisdom that you can basically tell our audience. We've talked about a lot of information today. So for those who are watching the replay, if you are missing any of the beginning of the episode, definitely go back and listen and watch the replay. But we always leave our guests to give a final jewel of wisdom, Eric, in reference to leaving a final thought or a final jewel with the audience. What would you want to tell our listeners, and especially those who may be watching us live, on what is a final thought that you would want to leave with them?
No doubt. Before I give my final thought, I want to thank you again, Julian, and Run the Jewelz for having me on today. This has been a beautiful conversation, and I thank you again. And my final thought would be this: if you're out there and you are feeling like you're not in a situation that you want to be in with your money, I want you to walk into your bathroom or your bedroom, look in the mirror, and tell yourself right now or sometime today, I will become a multi-millionaire and I will provide generational wealth for my family. Look in the mirror and say that to yourself today, and say it to yourself every day. And add in, I deserve financial abundance. The more you look in the mirror and face that and say it to yourself, you know what's going to happen? You will actually start to believe it. And this might sound crazy, but the universe will start to align itself. And if you don't believe me, just try it. The universe will start to align itself and start to bring people into your life that can bring that from a powerful thought to the ultimate reality. And that is my final jewel.
I love that, Eric. That's definitely a powerful jewel in itself. We got to speak things into life and speak things into existence, especially for those kings and queens that are watching. We always discuss the importance of affirming and also declaring the life and also what you want to do with your purpose. And so, Eric, how can people solicit your services, King, if they want to just track with your financial journey too? They may not be a high earner, six figure, but even if they want to learn from you or study under you, how can people follow you and also subscribe to your services?
Yes. So the best way to find me, if you're listening, my name is Eric, E-R-I-C, last name M-C-L-O-Y-D, Eric McLoyd. Go to LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn quite often. I try to drop jewels on a regular basis. I try to get into more so mindset content, but from there, I have a newsletter you can subscribe to called 7-Figure Saturdays, where I kind of just get into like how-tos once a week. It's talking about how to reach 7 figures, but it's focused more so about mindset. And I'm working on right now, Julian, building out some digital courses specifically around money mindset. So I'll have those out soon.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely want to not subscribe necessarily, but push for those that are wanting to learn from your courses. Definitely, you can visit Mr. Eric at LinkedIn at Eric MC capital L-O-Y-D. You could definitely search him on LinkedIn. He's very active on LinkedIn. That's actually, I forgot to mention how I met Eric through seeing him post on a mutual connection that we both are connected to on LinkedIn. And shout out to LinkedIn connecting us for today's phenomenal interview with Eric. And so definitely subscribe and follow him on LinkedIn. He's always dropping a ton of jewels, like he said. Eric, we always have to say a special blessing and prayer over any of our guests that come on the show. And so I'm going to say a quick blessing over you for taking time out of your schedule to drop the jewels on our audience today. And so if you have been blessed, anybody who is listening on our podcast by Mr. Eric in this episode today, you could also feel free to sow a seed into Good Soil, which is our podcast and also the Smart Jewels Network. You can sow two ways. You can cash app us at $SMART, SMART, JEWELZ, or you can click the link that we're putting in the comment section to become a monthly Patreon subscriber, or you can sign up to be a sponsor or a affiliate partner on one of our future episodes. We're just winding down for season 4, but if you want to get in for our next season, definitely feel free to sign up for a podcast sponsor or affiliate partner ad spot. And so, Eric, I'm going to say a quick prayer over you, King, and then let you enjoy the rest of your day, if that's okay.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
For sure. Father God, I just want to thank you for Eric. I thank you for, Father, his passion and also his purpose to not just educate others, but to empower others to take hold of their finances. One of the most disrespected areas in many of families and societies, especially those here in the U.S. that just need a little bit of help with their finances, and even with humbling themselves and not being prideful, to know that there's always different information, different hacks, different jewels of wisdom that people can learn to better their finances and also better their family legacy. We thank you for his generational wealth principles that he's sowing into his clients and even into his family and friends that are watching him along his journey. And we pray that you will magnify his outreach, magnify his client pool, and also magnify his connection with even individuals that he's never even thought of this next season. May you open up doors that can never be shut. And may you also continue to give him the overflow in the 100 and 100+ fold return on his investment. I love you, Father. I thank you for our time today and pray that you will bless us along our journey throughout the rest of this day. And it's in Yahshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ's name, I pray. Amen.
Amen, Rob. Thank you.
I appreciate you, King, for coming on. We definitely will have to have you come back for a part 2 based off of your availability to share with people about that estate planning, because you were dropping a ton of jewels of wisdom. So shout out again to Eric dropping the jewels on us for today's episode. You all go in, listen to the replay, and make sure you go and connect with Eric on LinkedIn, you all. He is an active member on LinkedIn. You can visit him at Eric McLoyd on LinkedIn, MCLOYD, like the Big Mac you can get from McDonald's. You definitely are going to be in good hands in literally receiving the financial wisdom of Mr. Eric McLoyd. And so we appreciate you, King, coming on today, and you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Thank you, brother.
All right, King. Have a good one, man. Peace.
Peace.
All right, y'all. You heard a ton of jewels of wisdom from my very special guest again, Mr. Eric McLoyd. Some quick jewels for thought. Make sure you are not being prideful with your finances, you all. I had to learn this lesson early on in my late 20s, coming out of college. We all think that we're going to be making 50K plus. You may even think that you're going to be making 6 figures coming out of college. But a lot of individuals do not fall into that class. And so that means that you still have to worry about debt. You still have to worry about how you're going to live. You still have to worry about how you may even have to feed your family if you are a parent, an early teenage parent, or even an early 20s parent, that you are having to still navigate how to survive in life. And so when it comes to finances, you have to ask others that have been there, done that, for the best advice, the best wisdom, and also the best jewels that they can provide to you in order to get ahead. We have to stop holding on to this pride and this ignorance when it comes to financial education, because there's other cultures and there's other families that are way far advanced because they were open, especially open to receive knowledge. And so financial education can be an asset to you, or it can be a curse. If you do not take your financial education serious, your household and your family will struggle when it comes to keeping generational wealth in your family. And so those are some of my final jewels for thought. Make sure that you are taking time to talk to a financial advisor, to talk to someone who is a sound financial coach. Even if you're looking to get financial coaching services from Mr. Eric McLoyd, or even any of our guests that we've had to come on and talk finances, you've seen and heard from a ton of individuals that are walking it out and are not hustling. They're not sharks out here in sheep's clothing. They're actually trying to help build up the community and also build up financial wealth for our people, and even for individuals that are willing to learn. And so we even have financial coaching and also financial freedom coaching courses. And so if you're interested in that, you can visit www.smartjewelsenterprises.org. That's www.smartjewelsenterprises.org. And also we provide podcast creation services and coaching. And even if you're looking to have podcast technicians that are behind the scenes, making your show more professional, making your show more marketable, and also having a marketing kit to solicit sponsors and brand partnerships, we can help you. Let's talk. We can offer a free 30-minute discovery session for any of our potential clients that want to sign up for our podcast coaching or creation services. You can visit again www.smartjewelsenterprises.org to get started on your podcast today. And shout out to all of our VIP jewels and sponsors that you see at the bottom scroller of the screen. I forgot to mention, we could not have made this show a success without you all. And so we appreciate all of our shining VIP jewels, from Jazz in the Alley to Express VPN to Auntie Carol to Orgain Organic Protein to Champ Boxers to Fits for Kings and Queens to Everybody Eats ATL. We could not have made this show a success, this podcast a success, without you all, and also your ongoing support, your ongoing donations, and specifically your seeds from our sponsors and our VIP partners. And so if you've been blessed again by today's episode, feel free to sow a seed with us. There's two ways to sow. Cash App us at $SMART, SMART, JEWELZ, or you can become a monthly Patreon with us by clicking the link that we're putting in the comment section. Or if you have a business, if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner, feel free to sign up for one of our sponsor ad spots, or our partner, affiliate partner ad spots that we have on the podcast show. Each and every episode, we do highlight a next or another VIP sponsor or affiliate partner. And so shout out to all of those that have partnered with us this season. Urban Eden, Get Gains or Get Gone, Midnight Prayer Watch, Delta Community Credit Union. We have diversified our sponsors and our affiliates. And so shout out to you all. But those are all of my jewels for thought today. We definitely are winding down with season 4, you all. And so if you have not already seen, we are taking the podcast show on the road, you all. We're taking it on the road this next season. And so stay tuned. I'm excited to see what our team has produced for the next season. We're going to be showing creatives and also showing podcasters how to get it internationally out the mud, not just here in the U.S. where I'm based here in the U.S., but we're taking the show international to go and talk to entrepreneurs, to go and talk to business owners, and even young professionals to have them educate myself and educate you all about their country, about their culture, about their economy, and most importantly, about their currency. We're going to be taking this show global, you all, going to Asia, going to the motherland again. Going to, and especially we'll even end up all of those that have been tracking with us to see our progress. We look forward to showing you what all we've been doing within the last 3 and even 4 seasons shortly. And so stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Shine bright like the bright diamond jewels that you've been created to be, because someone needs to see and needs to feel the light that is within you. But you can't be afraid to share that light. Don't be selfish, or don't hold that light to yourself. You have to be able to spread it to others, you all. You got to be able to open up your mouth and speak as a king or a queen should, and make sure you always stay hydrated and share the light within you. And so I'll see you all next week. Stay hydrated, stay safe, stay blessed. Follow us on all podcast streaming platforms at the Run the Jewelz podcast, and we'll see you all soon. Peace.